Good evening. For Tuesday, December 4th, 2018 to order with roll call, please.
Weinhammer? Here. McAlpine?
Here.
Cavelli? Here. Kostler?
Here.
Kraus?
Thank you. After the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd ask you to please remain standing for a moment of silence for our 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Please be seated. We'll now move to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I have 3 people that have signed in. Cassie Pinter.
Cassie Pinter, 325 Bryan Drive. I have a few thoughts regarding last week's approval of the resolution repudiating the Callaway report, etc. Last week, 4 trustees voted in favor of this resolution, repudiating all findings of the Callaway report, specifically the harassment complaint that was filed by Trustee McAlpine against Trustee Kostler. 4 of you disagreed with the findings of the report, that Trustee Kostler acted in a harassing, derogatory, and unprofessional manner, and that the allegations about Trustee Kostler's Facebook comments were credible and consistent. While I understand that most of you were not able to actually hear the verbal comments made to Trustee McAlpine by Trustee Kostler, the social media posts are indisputable. Copies of these libelous comments by Trustee Kostler were attached to the Callaway report. I have copies of them here as well. 11 times in these pages, Mr. Kostler either called Trustee McAlpine a felon, referred to her as a felon, or referred to her as acting in a felonious way. These statements are indisputable and in black and white. I absolutely do not understand how any of the 4 of you could vote in favor of and sign a proposal saying that you don't agree that this happened. Had you allowed conversation regarding the resolution and pulled some of the items out, maybe you would have a leg to stand on. But written as it is clear that your votes were biased and based on personal feelings rather than facts. At the end of the meeting, when Trustee Kostler called the question after being challenged by a former trustee, he ended all further discussion and forced the board to move directly to the vote. By doing this, he took away the ability for any of the trustees or the mayor to wrap up their thoughts and finish the process. At that time, I was confused. I didn't understand why the discussion came to such an abrupt halt. I think it's important for the residents to understand that by doing this, Trustee Kostler denied his fellow trustees and the mayor the opportunity to express their final thoughts as his usual standard procedure after a motion and a second. Trustee Kostler claims to be transparent, but this action was clearly motivated by his desire to shut the conversation down, particularly at a time when a former trustee had just finished speaking about how difficult Trustee Kostler had been to work with during his time on the board. Just a quick thought on transparency. Trustee Kostler claims to be transparent, to listen to the residents, etc. He offers polls on his political Facebook page. He posts pictures and information that shed a positive light on himself. I have said this at several meetings, but I want to reiterate for the record that his political Facebook page, which he calls Cary Connection, is not an open, transparent page representing the village and the residents of Cary. He has taken away the ability for me, along with many, many residents who have challenged his stance on issues, to comment on anything or even vote in the polls that he's asking of the residents. This page needs to be identified as the Cosler-Cavelli political page, not made to appear as a page associated with the Village of Cary. I would like to address, this was a little confusing for me, but I would like to address item 1D from the resolution that was passed last week regarding Attorney John Murphy's findings. Only the final paragraph was cited in the resolution, and it was taken out of context. Taken out of context, it appears to support trustees' comments. The statement says, "The board agrees with the findings from Attorney John Murphy dated April 15th, in which he states, it is my opinion that the conduct of trustee Cosler as described in Ms. Calloway's report does not constitute a violation of the village's harassment policy or governing law." Let's clarify this. Based on the other findings from Mr. Murphy, this conclusion was made because, quoting, "Harassment unconnected to a protected class is insufficient, and there was no subjective indication which would suggest that the behaviors and remarks of Mr. Cosler were based on trustee McAlpine's gender." Mr. Murphy did not disagree with the findings of the Callaway report, which state that trustees Cosler's statements were harassing, derogatory, and unprofessional. In fact, Mr. Murphy clearly states in paragraph 2, "I accept the findings as set forth in Ms. Callaway's report." I know this is confusing, but it sounds to me like you all passed a resolution last week that you agree with the findings of the Callaway report and disagree with them at the same time. The resolution that the four of you voted in favor of is partially based on Mr. Murphy's findings. But you omit his acknowledgement of his agreement with the report. As a matter of fact, the findings in the Callaway report don't even mention the village's harassment policy. However, that was the statement you chose to include in the resolution. In a nutshell, item 1D states that the board agrees with the findings of Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Murphy clearly states that he accepts the findings of the Callaway report. Just a couple more thoughts. There was much discussion about the use of taxpayer money relating to this harassment complaint and the ensuing investigation. I believe that Mr. Cosler should be held accountable for these fees incurred by the village as a result of his actions and his behaviors, starting with mispronouncing trustee McAlpine's name, to the verbal derogatory comments made directly to her, to his libelous social media posts, all of which resulted in attorney fees above and beyond normal village representation, and culminating with last week's special meeting called by Mr. Cosler himself, which cost the taxpayers roughly $1,500 or something like that. Trustee Cavelli and Trustee Weinhammer, as women and mothers, and Trustee Cavelli as a police commander, shame on both of you for blatantly dismissing a victim of harassment. And one final question for you, Mr. Cosler. From a moral and ethical standpoint, because you were the subject of the harassment complaint, shouldn't you have recused yourself from last week's vote, as it is clearly a conflict of interest? Thank you.
Dawn Pensack.
Dawn Pensack, 66 Duxbury. I was unable to attend last week's special board meeting, but I watched it online. During the meeting, Trustee Cosler repeatedly claimed to have proof that supported his stance in regard to passed by the board. He offered copies of emails and documents if anyone was interested in them. And I quote, "Once again, anyone that wants to look at them, I have all the emails. That's all I have to say. I have proof, they don't. They just keep making accusations. I have the written documentation. If anyone, come over to my house, I'll give it all to you. In fact, you can just look through my whole village email account. I don't even care. There's nothing I've done wrong. I'm totally transparent. Just have it." All this while holding a file, presumably with the written documentation inside. So I contacted Mr. Cosler. Excuse me, sorry. On November 28th. "Good afternoon. I was unable to attend last night's special board meeting, but watched it online. During the meeting, you offered copies of emails. I would like to see them. You can email me them, or I can pick them up at the Village Hall. Please let me know which is easiest for you. On November 29th, I got a response. Ms. Penzak, thank you for your message and interest in this issue. As I am sure you are aware, the Freedom of Information Act allows access to all board members' emails. Nonetheless, I will provide you an unredacted correspondence if your request is reasonable. Please be more specific, or I may need to refer you to village staff so you can submit a formal request. On November 29th, I replied and said, Mr. Kostler, I would like copies of everything you had in your folders that you were offering up at the meeting. Excuse me. On December 1st, I hadn't heard, so I emailed again. When will I be able to get the copies that you offered up in the meeting? Thank you. On December 2nd, Mrs. Penzak, the documents will be available for your review at 5:30 p.m. on December 4th prior to the normal board meeting. I will arrange to have the Village Hall conference room available for us, as well as a third-party witness. If after your review you would like copies, you can submit a Freedom of Information Act request with the village staff, and they will handle your request. On December 3rd, I replied, I am disappointed. During the meeting, you offered copies of the emails to anyone that wanted them. You even offered for people to come to your house to get them. You are going back on your word by not giving them to me. I will see you at the meeting on Tuesday. Later that day, Mr. Kostler replied, I have reasons to set boundaries, and those are well documented. Subjecting myself to superfluous, excuse me, I'm so sorry, requests at my expense is not fair or reasonable, since formal FOIA requests enable me to have the village provide the necessary copies. Nonetheless, I met with staff today and explained your situation. They agreed that copies would be appropriate at village expense. I have expedited this process for you and told them to give you the documents without a formal FOIA request. I hope you are appreciative of the efforts I have made. An envelope is waiting for you at the front desk at the Village Hall. Your actions from the time you offered the documents at the meeting to anyone that wants them to your final email does not demonstrate transparency. But nonetheless, I picked them up and have read through all of them. There are a few items that I would like to address. Item number 4 in the resolution that was passed last week states that your seat change request has been ignored by the mayor. After reading through the copies of all the emails that you provided for me, it has become clear that you are manipulating dates and requests to shed a more positive light on yourself. Here are the facts. Fact, in May 2017, there were several emails that circulated amongst the board. In summary, you and Jennifer weren't happy with the seating chart as outlined by the mayor and requested a different arrangement. Fun fact, both arrangements suggested by Trustee Weinhammer had you and Trustee McAlpine seated next to each other. These emails and this request occurred in May of 2017, long before the harassment complaint was filed. They are irrelevant to the current situation. And just for the sake of disclosure, Mayor Koenig's seating chart was dismissed by Trustee Weinhammer and Cavelli as they chose to sit where they felt more comfortable. Fact, in July of 2018, you did send an email to Mayor Koenig. However, nowhere in this email did you formally request for your seat to be changed. You submitted a lengthy dialogue about how you wanted Trustee McAlpine to be comfortable and to put an end to her outlandish claims. I'm happy to get you a copy of the email if you would like, but I do have it with me here tonight. But you did not request to move to a different seat. Mayor Koenig did respond to this email by stating that he had not received any requests from any of the trustees to be moved. You were not ignored. Moving on. Both trustees Kostler and Covelli sat up here last week and stated this was a one-sided investigation. Trustee Covelli stated, and I quote, when Trustee Kostler asked what was the basis of the complaint, he basically got nowhere. Item 1A in last week's resolution claims that trustee Costler's right to be informed of specific allegations being made again were violated. Fact. I have the email that trustee Costler received from Ms. Callaway dated the same day that trustee Costler requested this information. At last week's meeting, trustee Costler read a single line of the second paragraph of the email that was sent in response to his request. The first paragraph of Ms. Callaway's response to request as follows. The basis of my investigation is a complaint of harassment received from trustee McAlpine regarding your conduct towards her. The primary focus of her complaint involves your alleged conduct towards her at a board meeting on December 19, 2017. Trustee McAlpine's complaints were summed up in an email to the board dated December 21, 2017. You were copied on that email. Clearly, trustee Costler was given the information regarding the basis of the complaint. Both his statements and trustee Cavelli's comments made at last week's meeting were misleading and false. And the item of 1A in the resolution is inaccurate. The report was not one-sided due to the investigator, but rather to trustee Costler's refusal to meet with the investigator. As I read the resolution that was passed by a 4-2 vote, it appeared to me that it was an attempt to paint the victim as politically motivated. However, it is also obvious to me that the politically motivated trustees are the 4 that voted to pass a non-fact-based resolution. The resolution was posted on Carey Connection, the Facebook page that is run by trustees Costler and Covelli, without being attached to the original report or supporting documents. It was posted on this Facebook page before it was posted on the village website. This does not demonstrate moving forward as was asked for by trustee Betts. This demonstrates political motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Willie, is this pertinent to what we're going to discuss later? Or do you want about your business? Is that okay? Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. That's cool. Thank you. Thank you. Before I get to my mayor's report, a couple things. I wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting on another exceptional Mary Carey Parade, although that the weather wasn't exactly what we had hoped for. 2 years ago, we were in a blizzard. This year was a monsoon with all the rain and that. So I think everybody weathered very well. It was great to see the excitement in our downtown. The children absolutely loved it. We were fortunate enough to have the full board in our stellar ride put together by the Public Works Department, who made that all in-house for us so we can showcase the village board. So I wanted to thank the chamber. I wanted to thank Public Works for helping set it all up, the police department for keeping us safe, and that all that participated. I think there was over 70 or 80 participants or floats in there, so that was very exciting. So we were thrilled to be a part of that. I have a couple of employee recognitions. First, I have a recognition for James Lockler. He is not able to be here tonight. He's with our Public Works Department. He is celebrating 5 years. And we also have Jason Williamson, who is with our Police Department. He is an employee of the village for 15 years. So we want to thank them. And we have a small token of our appreciation that the respective department heads will give to them when they see them. But if I could have Keel come forward, we're going to start with him. Is he here? Okay, he's here. I remember when you started, you were this big. Congratulations. Keel's been with the Public Works Department for 5 years, and we usually do a 1 and 5 year, 10, 15-year acknowledgement. So we have a small token of appreciation for you. We thank you very much for your service, and I'm sure your Public Works Director would love to do some shiny remarks.
No, of course. Thank you, Keel, for your 5 years. Obviously, it's been a wild run, and we appreciate your efforts, especially in our wastewater plant. Keel's one of the individuals responsible for that highly technical work, keeping all the water that goes through our system and getting it treated before it goes to our rivers. So he's one of our class of 13, if you like to say, and really appreciate all your efforts. Just one little quick story for Keel that I recalled. Extra effort and appreciation is always a great thing, and he exemplifies that very much every day. I remember, I think it was this year, he went above and beyond the call of duty and rescued a hawk that had decided to swim its way into our sludge drying bed. So he had the unpleasant job of climbing in I'll just say the stuff, freed the bird, yes, cleaned the bird off, and got it some help. So little side story, but the behind the scenes stuff that people like Keel do every day is appreciated, and that was definitely above and beyond. I'd shake your hand, but I know where you've been. So.
Next we have Kyle Wimmer. He also has joined the Village of Cary 5 years ago, and I knew him when he was much smaller too. In 5 years, people grow, especially their own kids too.
Are you trying?
Thank you very much for your 5 years of service. We look forward to many more. This is for you, and wait a second.
I don't have any stories about rescues of animals for Kyle, but he also exemplifies the spirit of our customer service and the high level of detailed quality work. Kyle's in our focuses mainly in our water division, and one of the big projects he's worked on over the years is our water meter replacement program. So many residents, I'm sure, have already seen the new meters that help us automate our system and prevent us having to walk door to door for every single meter to read those bills. We're eventually going to be able to do that by remote vehicles, and with the new technology, really reduce our staff time involved in that effort. But installing those meters is always a challenge, and as many of you probably know in your homes, sometimes those meters are in very tight spaces. Yet people like Kyle, even as tall as Kyle, are dexterous enough and skilled enough to get the work done, and we appreciate all the efforts, and looking forward to the next 5 plus, 10 plus, 30 plus years. Thank you.
Last but not least tonight, we have John Fitch. John Fitch has been with our Community Development Department. He's a stellar asset to our building department. He deals with all of the construction aspects, the processes, the blueprints, and between he and Brian, they shepherd all the projects and things through the village, through all the right processes from, Brian with the zoning board, bring it to the village board and getting things done. So John has got a wonderful reputation in our building community. I talked to a lot of the businesses that are out there, and they know who he is, and he's very thorough with his work, and they enjoy working with him. So you're a great example for the village community too. There's a lot of face time with our residents and businesses, so we appreciate that. So we have a small token for you too. So thank you. Brian is our Community Development Director. He'll say a couple things.
Mayor stole a lot of the words I was going to say, but it's fine. From a standpoint of how the village operates, John's one of the critical points if somebody's looking to do work on their home or property in town. They usually go through our department, and John's the primary point of contact for getting permits issued to them and helping them through our review process. He always approaches everything with a customer service oriented basis, is very approachable for residents and developers that come to our counter, and works in as efficiently as possible to get permits out. Certain points of the year, it's difficult to walk into his office due to the amount of permits that we have going at certain times, but John's always approachable from a standpoint and tries to get permits issued as quickly as possible can. But he's a pleasure to work with, and have enjoyed working with him the last 4 years here.
Thanks again. And now, if I will, we join. I think Josh, you coming up? Chris Winkleman, you coming up here for the Police Citizens Day? I'm gonna do that fast. I didn't want to go back and forth.
You're trying to follow the agenda. He's a rule follower, come on.
I thought it would be awkward to go back and read that.
I apologize for turning my back on the people back here, but Josh Victor, Officer Josh Victor and Sergeant Chris Winkleman have done this 2 years in a row now, and they've coordinated the Citizen Police Academy. They've arranged for speakers and made sure that people got where they were supposed to go. We had a couple field trips. Some of the things that they were, the participants were exposed to were a police department overview. They were out on a shooting range. They had a patrol overview, and all of them did ride-alongs.
Correct.
With Sergeant Winkleman mostly.
Correct.
All right. They did a tour of the McHenry County Jail. They were addressed by the coroner, the McHenry County coroner. They went to animal control and CCOM. One day, they split that day. They had an overview from our investigation section. They were addressed by Pat Keneally from the State Attorney's Office, Judge Chimmel from the Circuit Court, and they had a canine demonstration from Officer Sharon Freund from the Woodstock Police Department in her canine blue. All right. And then we had a use of force demonstration and instruction by Deputy Chief Nadenoff as well. So we appreciate their participation and their desire to learn a little bit more about our police department. I hope that there's a better understanding of what we do. And I would just turn the rest of the presentations for the certificates to you.
All right, thank you, Chief, I appreciate it. We have some certificates of completion. Just as a matter of fact, we have 2 trustees on our board that are graduates from the Citizens Police Academy. And I see some people that are in the audience that are also graduates from the Citizens Police Academy. So it's great to see, people continue on with this. And what do we have, 13 people this year? 16? Oh, 13, 16, whatever. But it's nice. It's a great opportunity for our residents, our business owners to get a feel for what it's like to, in the day in the life of Peoria Police Department. There's a lot more to it than people say with our speeding tickets or parking tickets. Substantially a lot more than that. So we're hopeful that this program can continue to succeed. And without further ado, I have some certificates for, we'll start with Michael Broska. Congratulations, there you go.
Thanks.
Whitney Broska? Any relation?
Depends on the day. Thank you.
That's
perfect. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Adam Cole. Got that? Congratulations. Kate DePita.
Hold on.
Congratulations. Andrew Ellis. Congratulations. Lee Frisch. Kristen Garrett. Fix it up a little. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Debbie Lynn. Jason Morial. Tara Niven.
Thank you. Thank you.
Leroy Olson.
Thank you. He sees me every Sunday.
Richard Pedraza. Mary Van Stel.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Paul Van Stel. I won't ask.
We get the same answer.
Yeah. Congratulations. And Mark Zalewski, Zalewski, that good enough? Close enough?
Congrats, Mark. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks for that.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Another outstanding class graduate.
Thanks, Mark.
It is customary, the class makes a gift or a donation, and I'd like to call up Paul Van Stel to present that class gift.
Also called Melissa Victor from the Alumni Association. Everyone who graduates from the class is now part of the Alumni Association. So it's probably about, I'd say 100 people in that association who help out with community events. So go ahead, Paul.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Feel like they're hot again.
There must be food. There must be food upstairs. Huh?
Yeah, I'll let it clear out before I read this proclamation. A proclamation for the National Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month, 3D, December 2018. Whereas the December holiday season is traditionally one of the most deadly times of year for the impaired driving, and whereas for thousands of families across the state and the nation, holidays are a time to remember loved ones and lost. And whereas the Village of Cary is proud to partner with the Illinois Department of Transportation's Division of Traffic Safety and other traffic safety groups in an effort to make the roads and streets safer. And therefore, I, Mark Koenig, Mayor of the Village of Cary, do hereby proclaim December 2018 as National Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month, 3D, in Cary, and do hereby call upon all residents, government agencies, business leaders, hospitals and healthcare providers, schools, and public and private institutions to promote awareness of the impaired driving problem, to support programs and policies to reduce the incidence of impaired driving, to promote a safer and healthier behaviors regarding the use of alcohol and other drugs this December holiday season and throughout the year, dated this 4th day of December 2018. Thank you.
And I will entertain a motion to approve consent agendas number 1 through 9 as
And displayed on the video monitor during the village board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Costler,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
And I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute an engineering services agreement with Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, Rosemont, Illinois, in the amount not to exceed $45,000 for flooding mitigation design, and authorize the village administrator to approve a 10% contingency for unforeseen changes in the scope for a maximum project budget of $49,500.
So moved. Second.
Eric?
Thank you, Village Board. This evening, before you is the engineering agreement for our flood mitigation design work that was part of our previous year's capital improvement program and budget workshops. During that time, we highlighted some of the projects that were analyzed with our 2017 flood mitigation study that analyzed a lot of the different areas throughout the village that experienced drainage issues during the recent rain events that year. As part of our budget, currently, there were a couple areas that we're going to be preparing design documents for, specifically the area east of United Methodist Church in the center of town by Crest Drive, the area downstream of Veteran Park by the South Metro commuter lots going into the continuation of Cary Creek, and the area around Krenz Avenue and School Street, which involves some basin work and storm sewer design. So these projects would be designed with this contract in order to bring them to a shovel-ready state should there be available grants or other funding sources down the road. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments for Eric?
I think it's great that we're being proactive about this, so thank you for staying on top of it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Cavelli? Yes. Betts?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Costler?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance regarding the annual real estate tax levy ordinance for the tax year 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Michael?
I'll make this as brief as possible.
Oh, it's taxes. You can't be brief.
Based on the discussion that was held at our last committee of the whole meeting, the levy that's been brought forward to the board tonight for approval shows a 0% increase. So the levy, as it's proposed, would remain at the same level as it was last year. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I just want to make a comment. Nobody wants to look at anything that's raising taxes. I think that this board should have looked at the new growth. New growth just means that any new business or new development that came in here, whatever that tax is, you increase the levy by. So it would not mean an increase to any residents, it would just be capturing the money for the new growth. So if a new development comes in, there's new taxes that are associated with that. I think that we should be taking that, because again, it's not a tax increase. But why else do you want economic development if you're not going to capture the taxes that go along with it? We've not been doing that for many years, and at some point, we're going to have to play catch up. So it's concerning to me because we have a very limited stream of income revenues for us. But I know that the majority of board is not in favor of that. And, I just feel it's our responsibility from a fiscal responsibility to, that we also have a fiduciary responsibility to our residents.
The recommendation from village staff is, if the board recalls from the committee of the whole meeting, is to take the new growth option. What we brought before you here is a flat levy, no increase, just based on that feedback that we got from the village board at the committee of the whole meeting. So.
I do have a question regarding that statement. Somebody had told me that that would affect the taxpayers if you capture the new growth. Is that correct?
If the village were to capture the new growth, what that means is for the new businesses that are appearing on the tax rolls for the first time, the taxes generated from them would be allowed to be added to our tax levy. So what that means for all of the residents of the village of Cary, basically, maybe not exactly, but for the most part, the property tax that they pay to the village of Cary would not go up from their present level that they've been paying. The amount that we would receive, the additional property taxes in the new levy, would come from the new business being added to the tax rolls. So in theory, there should be no additional tax burden placed on the residents of the village of Cary from that new development.
For the village's portion of their tax bill.
Right.
For only the village's portion. We have no say over what the other taxing bodies' increases will be over the course of the year.
So when you say in theory, is there been times in the past where?
Well, The reason I say in theory is not everyone's value of their home. Some people may have improvements whereby they add an addition to their house. So their equalized value would go up. So their taxes are going to go up based on the amount of that improvement that they made. So I don't want to make the general statement that not everyone's taxes would go up, because in those cases it would.
So anybody who's made an improvement to their home?
And for the most part, yes.
But if no one had done any improvement, if there's no changes, that should not be an increase to anyone.
Right.
All we're doing is capturing the new growth. So if it generated, what was that amount? What was that dollar amount, if you remember offhand?
$15,000.
So it just basically said that our tax levy, instead of being 2.5, it would be 2,515, whatever it is, you're capturing that $15,000 that comes in. And if we don't capture it, it snowballs, because you can't capture it the next year. Once it's gone, it's gone. Is that correct?
Correct. You only have one opportunity to capture the new growth, and that's within the year that it's added to the tax rolls. If you don't take it in that first year when it's there, we're then subject to the tax caps, and we would not be allowed to absorb that growth in the future.
So it's to our advantage that we get $15,000 with this new growth. Or that we don't pay any more taxes, but the village gets the $15,000.
The reason I feel it's important is there are limited revenue sources that are available to the village of Cary. And I know at some point in time, probably most likely for capital improvements that are coming along, and we've seen it in the 5-year plan that we put together. There are a lot of those improvements where there are not dollars or revenue sources allocated to pay for them. So the reason that we have this discussion every year, and the reason that I've stood up here the last couple of years, is hopefully to get those additional taxes approved, because they compound from year to year, which would then make it easier to pay for some of those ongoing costs in the future. I mean, our costs will continue to go up. I can promise you that. So this provides us a mechanism to at least attempt to pay for a portion of them.
Two, we don't have to take this 15,000, put it in general fund. We could put it to the capital projects fund, vehicle and equipment fund. We don't have funding sources for those funds, and there's some concerns about that money drying up, and then, how do we pay for those improvements within capital projects fund or new vehicles? We are recommending, though, that you take this in the new growth and you put it in the general fund, because we have that increased payment here for the police pension. We dropped that assumed rate of return from 7.5% to 7.25%, and the village is going to have to pay probably an additional $40,000 to $45,000 approximately here out of our general fund. So we do recommend it go to the general fund, but the board does have the option, if you'd like to move that $15,000 to another fund, we can do that.
If what you're saying is true, then I'll make a motion to amend the motion to include the new growth.
I'll second it.
If there won't be any new growth, if taxes won't go up for people. But this happened 2 years ago when we were debating the tax levy. We had the new growth in there, and that at the last minute, you pulled it. You pulled that new growth out of there and just went with a flat levy. Okay, so why then did you pull it? But now you're making a case that we should be collecting this new growth this year.
I guess I'd have to go back and look at that. I can't recall off the top of my head why I would have done that. I do believe we always should be
Well, that's when
capturing
I
the growth.
came back and said it was political, and then I got attacked at the end of the meeting. So I'm making this motion now, so.
Can I suggest we identify the number? I mean, to capture the new growth is fine, but we probably want to put a number on it since it's a new ordinance, and it will have to be filed with the county.
I don't have it.
It would be on the last meeting.
So we have the numbers in the document that is actually going to be filed.
At the present time, the number that's in the document just reflects the flat levy. So what we do is take what's showing in here and add the new growth number to it.
Jake's checking.
Okay.
Bear with us.
Is that possible, Mike, or?
Oh, yes,
Sure.
it's very possible, it's just that I wasn't expecting.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the new growth option is a increase to levy of $15,050, which would make the levy amount $2,525,672.
Exactly.
Perfect. I will second. You want to say that then? You want to say
Whatever that was.
I'll amend the motion to include the amount that Jake just referenced.
And I'll second that.
So I need to get a vote on that. What about the original?
The amendment needs a vote, and then there's a vote on the
Okay.
on the levy itself.
All right, Courtney, I need a roll call on the amendment.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Cavelli?
So this is to vote for,
The amendment to make the change.
Just to make
Agreeing
the
to
change.
amend, and then there'll be a vote on the levy.
okay, yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Kostler?
No.
Okay, and I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance regarding the annual real estate tax levy for the tax year of 2018, which includes the new growth of $15,050 for a total of $2 million. Oh my gosh. $2,525,672.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Betts?
Yes.
Cavelli?
No.
Kostler?
No.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was easy. Thank you
4-2.
very much, Trustee Kraus, for bringing that forward. Let's see. And we'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title III of the Village Code to add a new chapter 3.60 to establish procedures for donations to the village.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, Village Board, we've reviewed the donation ordinance here at a few meetings. This was asked for by the Village Board. Currently, we don't have a donation ordinance on file. The plan is for the village to adopt a donation ordinance and make it available here on the village's website. There were a couple changes here that have been submitted to the village, which we've included in the ordinance. These changes were to section 3.60.070 related to donations. Attached here to your agenda item are those changes, excuse me, are those changes which have been highlighted in yellow for your review. Happy to answer any questions that you have related to this. The village attorney has reviewed and does recommend approval of the ordinance.
Anybody have anything right off the top?
Make a comment. I just would like to see us get something so that someone that wants to be generous and donate to us, I don't necessarily think we need some of the changes, but that's fine. I want to see a policy in place so that someone is able to make those donations. So I'm definitely supportive of this.
I have a question just regarding the, is anonymous and private the same thing, do you think, Attorney Euler? Let me,
No, not necessarily. I think anonymous is probably broader, but clearly it would encompass a private donation.
Okay, so I just want to, I think it's fine, I think it's great that we're moving forward with an ordinance on this. I want to clarify a couple of things. For instance, how this last donation came about, the $60,000, I was unaware of the fact that they were going to be donating money. They clearly wanted to know what was going on in the village. So I had a meeting with them. I had a couple meetings with them before they said that they were going to make a financial contribution. At that time, I notified the board of this pending thing. So how do we deal with an interested party wanting to learn about what's going on? They make an appointment with a trustee, they email a trustee, they email me, talk to me, want to talk about things. How is that going to help us gain some donations from some very generous benefactors? I'm just curious about that. How is that supposed to be fair to somebody that wants to provide a donation to the village to offset a cost of a particular project? That's the only thing that, someone has to shepherd people through the process. Someone has to let them know what we're doing and what projects are available. You're not going to get, for instance, if some, John Doe goes to McHenry County Community Foundation and says that they want to make a donation to the Village of Cary, how are they going to know how are they going to figure this out? I think that it's important that we have, if somebody comes to one of the trustees, I have no problem, and they want to remain anonymous, as long as it's properly vetted, as you indicated before, I have no issue with that whatsoever. But I don't want to, I struggle with the fact that when people want to have a personal contact with somebody, I don't think that we should push that away. If somebody wants to have a conversation with somebody about something, and we could have a point of contact or something. I don't really. I think that's something that we can decide later. But I don't want to short cheat us, so to speak, to where we're not able to provide what a donor is looking for. If that makes any sense. That's just my 2 cents. But I just think I made some notes early on that I just think that this ordinance doesn't reflect the true meaning of selfless giving, which a majority of donors strive for. They want to be anonymous. They want to know what they're doing, but they want to be anonymous about it. So it's my.
But it does cover that, doesn't it?
Pardon me?
It does cover that if they want to go, if they want to be anonymous, they can go through a third party. I believe I read that in the ordinance, right?
Yeah, what if what if somebody comes up to me and says they want to do this, that they want to donate, then I would immediately tell them to go to a credible foundation or a bank or use a trust or whatever. So that's acceptable, because I don't know exactly what it is.
Sure, or might not direct them to Jake. If someone came up to me, I'd probably direct them to Jake right away. That's what I would do.
Okay. Right, any other comments?
I think it's good.
I like it too.
I think we start with something. I think I just want to get something going. I want to get something so that we don't turn away $60,000. That's what I want to have.
All right, any other comments? Roll call, please, Courtney.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Costler?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Fetz?
Yes.
Weimer?
Yes.
We have another item on the agenda, which is the approval of ordinance accepting a warranty deed for the transfer of property from Lafarge Aggregates Meyer Material to the Village of Cary. That has been continued to December 18th, 2018. Randy, did you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about what's coming up? I want to talk about what's coming up. Okay, thank you. Moving with the administrator's report, please.
Mayor, Village Board, just an update here for our next Village Board meeting. It will be a joint meeting between the Village Board and the Board of Zoning Planning and Appeals to review our draft Unified Development Ordinance. So the consultant will be here. Both boards will be, excuse me, meeting together to hear that presentation. So just want to give the update to the board and for the public. Thank you.
Chief Finland, Director Muramoto.
Just one item, reminding everyone that our on-street parking restrictions for overnight for wintertime are in effect. So we appreciate the village's support in helping our snow operations teams keep the roads clear. Because obviously winter has arrived a bit early this year. So as that weather gets a little frightful, we appreciate your patience and keeping the roads open for us. Thanks.
Thanks. Director Simmons? Okay. Anything for us? Thanks. I have to apologize. Trustee McAlpine had asked me before the meeting started to say something during the trustee report. I apologize. In the commotion of getting back up
No
here, I missed that.
problem.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about?
There is. I just want to make a brief statement. I wanted to comment on our special board meeting from last week. I was not afforded the opportunity to wrap up my thoughts as I had prepared a statement to read into the minutes. Unfortunately, Trustee Cosler called the question, which means that all discussion and debate about the topic is immediately stopped. There were 4 votes on the board to end this discussion and immediately vote on the resolution. This was very uncharacteristic of our board, how it operates, and it creates further divisiveness in our board. Our typical procedure is to allow every trustee, as well as the mayor and the administrator, an opportunity to finalize their thoughts and verbalize them. Because of this action, no one was afforded this opportunity, and I was not able to read my statement into the record. I emailed my comments to the village board last week, and I've made several copies of my closing statements, comments, and I have them with me today. I'm not going to read them at this point. Everyone is aware of them here. So that being said, if anyone would like a copy, I have copies with me. Or if you want to email me at the village, I'm more than happy to share those with you. But I wanted to share that I just felt that that was uncharacteristic, and I just felt it was wrong that happened that way. And I just wanted to share that. That was all.
Thank you. Future agenda items and discussion by the village board? They normally will tell me beforehand. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss litigation pending or imminent, personnel, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees under Illinois 120/2C11 and Illinois 120/C1.
Are we doing the cow first?
Pardon me?
We're not doing committee of the whole first?
Committee of the whole?
No, because we have action after this.
Well, I move to postpone executive session till the end of the committee of the whole meeting.
Well, the reason that we're doing that is because what we discuss in executive session is acted on afterwards, immediately after the meeting.
We can delay that.
You want to delay that?
Delay. Can we do it? Is council okay with that?
that?
Yeah.
Move that to the,
As long as it's on the agenda, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think we need to agree it was a motion.
okay.
But you're okay, Scott, with moving that executive session to committee of the whole?
Well, we
And
have,
we defer that action to a future board meeting then?
the action that is listed
Yeah.
on this regular agenda would need to be taken during this meeting then.
But we
So-
defer it to a future board meeting.
And that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
So do I have to have a motion to defer that?
No, if we're not going to take action on it, we can take it up at the next meeting.
Okay, so nothing needs to be done. We'll just defer the executive session to the end of the committee of the whole. Is everybody okay with that?
Do we need a motion to do that?
I made a motion.
Okay,
If we're not going to take action, then. we're
okay.
not gonna
don't
take
have
Then we're
action.
just, okay. Then we're just going to just stop this meeting.
Right, we'll just adjourn this meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will reconvene in just a matter of minutes.